my students, we are still talking about all my sons. We are still in Act 1. Kate had a dream about Larry. He was flying his plane and suddenly he started to fall, calling to her, "Mom, Mom."
What was it, Mom? Did you dream?
More than a dream.
About Larry?
I was fast asleep and, you remember the way he used to fly low past the house when he was in training? When we used to see his face in the cockpit going by? Well, that's the way I saw him, only high up, way, way up where the clouds are. Oh, he was so real I could reach out and touch him. And suddenly he started to fall and calling to me, "Mom, Mom." It was just like he was in the room. "Mom." It was his voice. If I could touch him, I knew I could stop him. If I could just... I woke up and it was so funny. The wind, it was like the roaring of his engine. I came out here, I must have still been half asleep. I could hear that roaring like he was going by. The tree snapped right in front of me. And I came awake.
Kate tells Joe that she has noticed what is going on between Chris and Anne. Kate doesn't want Chris to propose to Annie as Kate cannot tolerate the idea of a marriage. Kate knows that Chris wants to marry Anne, but she doesn't agree. Joe says he doesn't know anything more than she does, and that's of course a complete lie because his son asked him to support the marriage and to try to convince the mother to support the marriage too. Kate wants Joe to believe with her that Larry will come back. She wants them all to go on believing that Larry is coming back. He asks her to calm down. Kate wants them all to believe that Larry is coming back and then Chris will not be able to marry Anne. Joe and Kate are interrupted by Bert, the little boy, who wants to see the jail. Bert plays a game with Joe. Joe is a policeman and Bert is his deputy, his assistant. Joe tells Bert that there is a jail in the basement and Bert wants to see it. Kate reacts sharply, telling him there is no jail there. Kate doesn't want anyone to talk about jail, about prison, and we are going to know why. Chris and Anne enters from the house. She's beautiful and beautifully dressed. She's been living in New York. When Anne mentions Larry, Kate is relieved. Kate believes that Anne still remembers Larry. Kate again begins to speak about Larry. She tells Anne that deep in her heart she's still waiting for him. Anne denies this, but Kate insists that it is true. Frank enters and ends the tension between Kate and Anne. A little small talk and then Frank mentions Anne's father. He asks about him. We know that he is in prison. We said that before. Anne is sensitive. She wants to know if the neighbors still talk about her father and his crime. Chris and Joe say no. Anne remembers the neighbors screaming murderers, murderers at her father Steve and at Joe. We now learn that 21 pilots were killed in the war because Joe's factory had produced cracked cylinder heads. We said that Joe's factory produces parts that the army uses in its planes. Something happened and caused the death of 21 pilots. In a long monologue, Joe recalls the day he was exonerated of the crime. Exonerated means became clear, innocent. He and his manager Steve had been accused of selling cracked cylinder heads to the Air Force, to the Army, causing 21 planes to crash. Joe and his manager Steve, who is Anne's father, had been convicted, had been accused. Joe was later exonerated and the blame was laid fully on Steve, who is still in prison. When Joe returned home, he walked down the street with boldness and pride. He suggests the same for Steve when he is released. Neither Anne nor her brother George has ever written to their father because they cannot forgive him for his crime. They blame him for knowingly shipping out faulty parts, resulting in the death of so many American pilots. She wonders aloud whether this was responsible for Larry's death. Anne is haunted by the idea that Larry could so easily have been one of the killed pilots because his plane crashed too. Kate gets angry and said that Larry was flying a different kind of planes, not the same kind that crashed because of Joe's factory. It was different. Kate accuses Anne of being heartless. She forbids any more talk of Larry's death. She goes on to say that she knows Larry is alive and therefore all talk about his death is irrelevant. Kate doesn't want Anne to say that Larry is dead because of his father's factory. This is very difficult for her, and that's why she accuses Anne of being heartless. Thank you very much. See you soon.